top of the hour. Welcome to our village regular scheduled meeting. Gonna start it? Yeah. Thank you, John. Okay, let's do that again. Welcome to our regular village board meeting. It's 7 o'clock on January 10th. If I can ask the clerk, that's a million miles away, if you could please take the roll call. Here.
Gillis.
Here.
Trustee Brennan.
Here.
Donald.
Here.
Okay, if I can ask everyone to stand, please, to say the pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have one public comment. Hey, John, up on the podium. Okay, Margie, you're our only public comment, so I'll give you the floor.
Thank you.
Or
Do you want me to start now?
yes, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. I have some questions on the floodplain ordinance update that the trustees are on the agenda for trustees to vote tonight. I think basically we need more information to better understand the nature of these changes and the impact to residents. Is this proposal to revert to the pre-April 2019 SMO floodplain management requirements and not include MWRD changes since then? What are the floodplain requirements that were removed and left to municipalities that Jeff Loester's memo mentions? What are the key changes in the impact to residents, especially those who own property in the floodplain? And what are we gaining? What are we losing? Why isn't MWRD implementing the NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program changes? And who is the consultant in April 2019 who updated the changes to the MWRD but not included the NFIP requirements? What happens to the additional local amendments that were adopted back in April of 2019? The properties in the floodplain in River Forest are in zones AH or AE, which is a different designation than was in existence when we moved here in 1996. I've read online that flood insurance is now mandated in those designations. Is that true? I feel like the trustees need more dialogue than just having this item in a consent agenda, and I welcome hearing that. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, Margie, yeah, and we'll be happy to do that. Jeff can answer, I think, all those questions. I think we'll wait and we'll pull it out of the consent agenda. I think it's appropriate. So, Jeff, you could address if that's okay with. Okay. So, okay, that's it for our public comment. I'll go ahead and ask for elected official comments. So we'll start with Trustee O'Connell, if that's okay. Okay.
Full salt on their sidewalks,
Yeah.
for the benefit of the walkers that are out there every morning. So, but other than that, just all I got.
Thank you. Yep. Keep reminding everyone to salt their sidewalks if you can find salt. That's the problem. Johnson, Happy New Year.
will also say Happy New Year. I really don't have much to say because the year just started. However, I will say I did have the opportunity to tour the Priory property that Fenwick is in the process of purchasing, and I have a lot of good ideas. It's still in process, but I will say that one thing that I wanted to just get across is that they do expect to use it like a community property and continue with the working with the park district and everything to ensure that, you know, those who want to use the land can. So I was happy to hear that.
We've got Mike Grant, who is on Zoom with us. He is the Park District elected official. Welcome, Mike, and also the village liaison to us. So it's good to hear that the Park District is, part of those at least collaborative discussions. Thanks. Trustee Brennan?
I have a couple things. First, I wanted to mention again that Dominican University is putting on two events starting this month. The first on January 18th, which is the National Day of Racial Healing. They have a day-long series of events, and some of them are only limited to Dominican students and to particular segments affiliated with the university, but some are open to anyone from the village, and they're remote. They have a very interesting keynote speaker. And thank you, John. I think you put it on the village calendar already. So if you're interested, go on the village calendar and click on January 18th. The other event that they have is a 6-month white accountability group, which is either meeting once or twice a month. I'm not sure that I have that nailed down. It's free, and it begins on January 31st, and they're still taking people who are interested in signing up. So that should also be on the village website, I believe, on the village calendar. Do you have it under January 31st, or how do people find it? News item. Okay. We had our TRHT meeting today and talked about those items. And then I wanted to mention something else. It's not particular to River Forest, but it is particular to a former resident of River Forest, and that is there's a really neat art installation coming to downtown Chicago, to the Wrigley Building, called the Plastic Bag Store. And it was brought to River Forest by Julie Moeller, who used to live here and was one of the co-founders or starters of our Sustainability Commission. Coming from January 20th to 30th. And it is a very interesting art installation, having very witty and thought-provoking. It's in collaboration with the Chicago Puppet Theater Festival. So, John, you can tell me whether that's appropriate to go on the village website as well. It's somewhat related to River Forest.
You can throw it out there for Julie.
And or maybe the Sustainability Commission can put it on their page on the website.
Yeah, that's John.
Okay, well, we can cross-pollinate it there. And then the third thing I wanted to mention is something really interesting that I found out this week, and that is that Illinois has a new-ish smoke alarm law that goes into effect the end of this year, so January 1st, 2023. And all of us are going to be having, unless we already have this new kind of smoke alarm that has the battery built in and you can't take it out, so you don't get the chirping and you don't have to go up on the ladder and change it. We're all going to be changing our smoke alarms. And the interesting thing I learned was that our smoke alarms have a small degree of radioactivity. So they should not be going in the landfill and they should not be going in recycling. So where do they go? Well, there's a group called Scarce out of Addison, Lombard area that's working on helping us get rid of our old smoke alarms safely. And, when you think about this rule coming into effect on the 1st of next year, there are going to be a lot of smoke alarms that are the people who need to get rid of. And I'd like us to get ahead of this. And I'd like to ask the Sustainability Commission to do some research into what we can offer to villagers so that we don't put our radioactive smoke alarms into the landfill and recycling.
Talk to this.
I'm looking at Lisa because you're the liaison.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. And then our new fire chief.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah. Yes.
All I have. Thank you.
All right, Katie. Thank you. Clerk, anything? Okay. Thanks, John.
Just hopefully everyone had a safe and healthy holiday season. Neither one of my committees met over the holidays, so that's all I have to say. Oh.
Before I forget, you're the collaborator, you're gonna get together with.
Correct. That is correct.
And so Mike, that's right, so Mike Grant is
Oh,
gonna
sure.
be representing the Park District.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll be
Very good.
serving on that too. And I think we're scheduling something January the 19th, I think. So, okay.
That's the different bodies
Yeah.
getting together.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello.
Barb Hickey
Right.
is hosting it.
I have nothing other than to say Happy New Year, and if you don't have salt, you can try sand. So that's what we ended up putting in our yard to try
Where did
to
you buy
work
it?
this. Yeah, you can buy it at Lowe's.
Hardware?
You can buy it at a lot of different places, and in fact, actually, salt won't necessarily work at very low temperatures. So
Yeah.
you can't find salt, use sand. We're all getting very smart about ice and how to get rid of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'd like to start with as we begin, we are mindful that we hold these meetings on land that was once inhabited by indigenous people, the Chippewa, the Menominee, the Potawatomi nations, and more. We will remember our nation's history and honor the Native peoples, stewards of this land that was colonized, and that River Forest continues to be a place for many people from diverse. Happy New Year to everyone, and not too much to say except just everyone, please be careful of the ice, and take your time getting to places. It's not,
Yeah.
nothing is as important. And
Thanks, and it's a great reminder, yeah. Okay, I have, not much, just, I think one thing. I had a conversation with, Dr. Russell Dawn from Concordia, who's we talked, briefly with, you, Rez, and Brian, or Elise at the time.
Right.
And we talked about the track. And they have some other developments that they want to do within the, Concordia over the next year. But I'm happy to report that the, Concordia University will continue to open their track to everyone, workforce, but all neighbors and all communities. They're going to be more transparent with their time in terms of the time that they're open. I know there's been some difficulty because sometimes they would close it when it was supposed to be open because they needed to use it for their athletic department. They also indicated that they would have longer hours during the summer for our communities. So I was very pleased to hear that our meeting
Correct.
indicating that this was an important thing to our community, that we continue to open that track to not just River Forest, but all our communities. And real happy about that, but more to come. We'll work with you, Brian, and John to make sure that we get that information out. It's going to be closed during the winter, open in the spring, but we need to get all that information together with Dr. Dawn and then, their marketing department, and then we'll get it out on our website and in our newsletter so our communities know. That's about all I had. I don't have anything more to report. Just Happy New Year to everyone. So we'll move on to our hearing, our public hearing. So I will, I guess, call the public hearing to order. Anything need to do other than call it to order, right?
There's actually.
Then review the and is that the clerk can read? When we call it, we don't have to.
Motion and
No, I don't think so.
No.
We just public. Okay. I'm hereby calling the public meeting to order.
I read the statement. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This hearing will come to order. Let the record reflect that this is a public hearing being held pursuant to the requirements of Sections 10 bond issue notification of the State of Illinois as notice of this hearing was published on December 29, 2021 in the Wednesday Journal, a newspaper of hearing regarding a plan to issue not to exceed $550,000 in aggregate proceeds of the bonds will be used to pay for 1, public infrastructure projects within the village, and 2, certain costs of issuance of the bonds. Bonds will be issued by the village in accordance with the provisions of Section 15 of the Local Government Debt Reform Act of the State of Illinois as amended, and constitute a general obligation of the village, payable from 1, non-referendum bond proceeds in accordance with the provisions of 8-5-16 of the Municipal Code, which shall not exceed 0.5% of the assessed value of all taxable property located within the village. This is a public hearing required by Sections 10 and Act of the State of Illinois. Time and place set for the public hearing, residents, taxpayers, and other interested persons will be given the opportunity to excuse for or against the proposed plan, issuance of the bonds.
Any comments from the public or from the trustees regarding this bond issuance? Have any? So hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this subject. Okay, so we're going to move on to our consent agenda. We will pull item D so we can address Margie's question. And we're going to pull F so we can, unfortunately, separate out the McDonald's cost. We'll get that right next. So if I can get a motion to approve A through...
Kathy, could I just ask if we could pull item C as well?
Sure. No
Thank
worries.
you.
So we'll need A, B, E, and G.
Oh, is it the minutes?
Need A, B,
E,
E, and G.
E as in dog.
D, I'm pulling.
D.
Yeah.
C,
Oh, I
D,
see.
and
Okay,
F
we're
are
doing it
by
reverse.
default.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
So A, B, E, and G.
I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, E, and G.
Any questions on those? Okay, hearing none. Ask the clerk to take the vote and then read out the consent agenda items for approval.
Yes.
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 So let's take each of these separately then. If we can get a motion to approve C, consent item C.
Move we approve consent agenda item C.
Second.
Okay. All right, so, question?
Yes. I had two questions about this item. It wasn't initially clear to me what kind of cameras we were talking about installing when I read this item in the packet. I since had a conversation with Brian Murphy about it, and he gave me additional information that helped me understand that they're permanent surveillance and security cameras. They're not the movable type. And then my second question was a question that I've heard from residents about other items that are in the consent agenda, and that is, why aren't we going out to bid for this? And Brian explained to me also the reason why, but I thought it would be good to get it on the record because I know that there are residents that listen to our meetings, either live or the recordings, and they don't understand why we're not going out to bid for something.
Yes, thank you. The item that's under item C for approval tonight are street camera systems. As you know, the village has had street cameras. The planning stage started, I believe, in 2008, and installation started in about 2010 with TIF funding along the Lake Street corridor, helping to get that program up and going. Initially, the software and hardware used was under the proprietary company called Milestone, which a form of that is still in business today. A number of years ago, after working with District 90, and they had switched from Milestone to a company called Avigilon. At the time, Eric Pond, the Chief of Police, and others looked at being able to share those platforms so we could offer additional safety to our students and teachers at the schools. And so a decision was made to move to the Avigilon platform. That platform is very proprietary, very unique within the industry itself. And I believe John Pape at one time called out that we wanted to see what vendors handle in the area so we can get some competitive bids. Amazingly, they sent someone out from the corporate side that rounded us back to the vendor we had started using, which was Griffin Technologies, whose information is contained within the packet this evening. There's no competition amongst anyone that sells Avigilon. The prices are the prices. And at the same time, a couple of years ago, after the strategic study to expand the street camera program was done through our IT group, Griffin Technologies was recommended to be brought on for maintenance, annual maintenance, and general upgrades and consulting to our existing program. So they have become a sole source over the years, and to bring in someone else to handle products and technology that they're not used to and are not certified to do so would also void warranties and cause other issues for a system that's just been amazing across the board for every one of our disciplines within the village itself.
Thanks.
Was that it?
Yeah, that was great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, any other questions or concerns on this item? Okay, then I've asked the clerk to read it out loud and then take the vote.
Yes.
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 Trustee
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to item D. If I can get a motion to move D in a second.
Move to approve the consent agenda D.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Okay, so I'll ask Jeff to please take the podium, answer any questions, and then, of course,
Sure. So the adoption here before you tonight is not a no attempt to change regulations in any way, shape, or form. This is a necessary evil in making sure we're compliant with state requirements and the CRS program. CRS is a program, stands for Community Ratings System. It's run through, Ms. Sikander mentioned the NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program. It's all through FEMA. It's a system in which municipalities such as River Forest can choose to adopt certain regulations related to floodplain management. Because this is run through FEMA, the goal is to make sure everybody is building responsibly within the floodplain. And so we participate in that program. We have done so, I believe, since 2011 or 2012, right before I got here. We've continued to do that every year since then. Because we adopt the regulations that we do through the CRS program, residents who have flood coverage receive a small discount on their premium every year. As we do better and we make our restrictions more restrictive, they get a higher discount. So it's proportionate to the efforts that the village makes and the regulations that it enacts. We have, as I mentioned, been a part of this program since 2011 or 2012, I believe. We've enforced the regulations, the bare minimum CRS regulations since that time. Our ordinance before the 2019 update didn't have a lot of that language in there, but we were enforcing it through the CRS requirements that we had. And we updated in 2019. The goal at the time was to become more streamlined with the MWRD's new stormwater management ordinance. Make it as streamlined as possible, we adopted a lot of their language just by reference. That way, as they change things, we change things automatically without having to come to the board each time. Fortunately, in this particular case, they dropped the language that relates to this. They did so because my understanding in digging into it a little bit is that municipalities were then using the MWRD to enforce these regulations, and that's not what the MWRD was intending to do. So they kind of backed out of that language. And so now those of us that have adopted that language by reference just need to put it on our own books as a local amendment, essentially. So that's what we're doing here tonight. Again, not trying to make anything more restrictive, less restrictive, just kind of more of an administrative putting the regulations back on our books as a local amendment to the MWRD ordinance. To rifle through a few of the questions that Ms. Sikander had mentioned, the consultant was Engineering Resource Associates. They did the work for us in 2019 for the update. And we had them look at this new language that we got from the state here for this adoption as well. The MWRD, they're not a municipality, so they're not obligated, or technically neither are we in terms of joining the NFIP's community rating system program. They don't have to, and so they're able to take that language out. Technically, the Village of River Forest could take that language out of our ordinance as well. Not something that we've really discussed since we joined the program back in 2011 or 2012. Again, no real effective changes here as we've been enforcing these restrictions for the better part of a decade here. And that's about all I've got written down. Are there any additional questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Does this change our permitting at all? This regulation deals with floodplain development permitting. Do we now do that permitting in-house, whereas it had been at MWRD?
So, no, to answer your question, that won't change anything. We at no point, no, is the short answer. We would still continue to review development within the floodplain the same way. At times, if things really escalate to a very technical review, sometimes we'll use a consultant to help us perform a review, but that has no bearing or has no change in that process based on MWRD's language, our language, or anything. Our process is consistent from prior to the 2019 update through today. That won't change any of that.
They just simply opted out on certain languages because they didn't want to apply the resources to it.
And again, they're not, to have to go, enforce that in all the municipalities under the MWRD umbrella would be a lot for them, so they just kind of backed out of that.
They're not saying that this or a piece of the ordinance isn't wanted. They're highly recommending it, if not.
Frankly, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources gave us the language and said, you're out of compliance with the state, so This is kind of not an option. We need to adopt this.
Right.
And again, it's not any more restrictive or less restrictive than what we had before. We're just coming back into compliance.
Cassidy, because the MWRD language, how often do you expect to see?
Sure, fair question. Not frequently. The attempt at the time was to streamline our process, right? So that when MWRD does tweak things here and there, we don't have to keep coming back to the board. This one went the other way on us because they made theirs less restrictive. So in a lot of cases, they could move a lot of other needles in a less restrictive manner. And as long as the state isn't involved in those particular criteria, we don't have to do anything as long as we're on board with that change. In this particular case, the state has some skin in the game, and so it became a different beast. So I don't anticipate a lot of changes. I really don't. The MWRD has made several changes over the last 2 or 3 years to their updated ordinance, the overwhelming majority of which haven't done anything to the village's ordinance. So this is just a really rare occurrence, I think, that we shouldn't have to revisit anytime soon.
And another question then. So we don't have to participate healthy neighbor, we would want to be able to do that. For residents who own homes, and sort of remembering when I was buying a home too, maybe the real estate person. I feel like often we're told that like we whatever, and so does this change any of that, or if we weren't a part of this program, we not have that?
No, that won't change any of that. The floodplain designation, the limits of the floodplain, the limits of the floodway, those are all established by FEMA as flood insurance rate maps. We get regular requests from potential buyers that say, I'm looking for a house, can you tell us, is it in the floodplain, is it not in the floodplain? And so we regularly give out maps or, portions of maps to show that. Don't change any of that. It does. We are a Class 8 in that CRS program. I think that equates to a 10% discount on flood coverage policies. So if we were to withdraw from the program, that would increase 10%. If we do better, we'll continue to drop that premium for those residents.
Questions? Okay, very good. Then I'd ask the clerk to please read out loud the consent agenda item B and then take the vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so then the last one we have is item F.
Yep. Is that the one?
But we're just separating the whole, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
From the general fund to McDonald's for 100.
We'll do the first one. I'm sorry. If you don't mind, we've got the consent and then the separate one. I'm sorry,
okay, that's why
Erica. So if I can get a motion to approve the accounts payable, and then we'll go to the separate one. It is confusing. Totally.
I move to approve agenda item 6F.
Second.
Okay. On that, hearing none, if I can ask the clerk. Should we do what? Because this has that in there. So we're going to correct that going forward. I don't know how we didn't catch that, so no worries.
We'll make sure.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
So I would ask the clerk to recuse me from this vote.
Okay,
Correct.
very good.
Yes.
Yes.
That's good. Yes.
Yes.
All right, so then we're done. Consent agenda is done. So I think that moves us into the last item, new business. And we have Tom on Zoom because he is in North Carolina finishing up as I understand, a project dealing with a dam. Tom, I don't know what you're doing over there, but I know you could be here.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I'm on a I'm on a rescue team standby out here.
Okay, so we're going to do this remote. It'll be the first time I've ever done anything remote like this, so we'll give it a try. So tonight I'd like to introduce Tom Gardner as our new fire chief for River Forest. I think you all around the table have met Tom, so I'd like to get a motion to give advice and consent to this appointment, and then we can, go ahead and vote on it and swear him in.
I'd like to make a motion to give advice and consent to the appointment of Thomas Gartner as fire chief for a term through May 12, 2025, and until his successor is appointed and has qualified.
Thank you. Again, welcome, Tom. I completely understand why you're remote, and I thank you for what you're doing out in North Carolina. But welcome to River Forest, and it's my pleasure to appoint you to our new fire chief. So congratulations. So I'd ask the clerk, I guess, I don't know how we do this.
Swear 'em in.
Well, wait, I gotta get a vote first, and then we'll,
Yeah.
swear him in. Okay. Any questions? I know all of you interviewed Tom. You know, it was,
Mhm.
you know, GovHR was our, human resource, organization that we used, for the interviewing process, so it was an arduous and rigorous process. Welcome, Tom. So I'll
Thank
ask anybody with any, if you have any questions. If not, we'll get the vote and then we'll swear you in, unless you.
Yes.
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 Yep. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll, do your swearing in. So, I guess you have to raise your right hand with the clerk here. Yeah. Huh? You just gotta put it to your mouth, literally.
Yeah, I can't hear. Yeah, I can't hear.
Right?
I can't hear the clerk.
Tom, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, why don't you can come up here, or, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the podium.
Yeah, go to the podium, yeah. What the heck?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you,
Yeah.
and we're now
Okay.
moving on over to the podium.
Tom, can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yes, I
All right,
can.
please repeat after me, whenever you're ready.
I'm ready.
I, Thomas Gartner,
I, Thomas Gartner,
having been appointed to the office of Fire Chief
having been appointed to the office of Fire Chief
in the village of River Forest
in the village of River Forest
in the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of Fire Chief
the duties of the office of Fire Chief
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I'm honored and I'm excited, extremely so.
Well, like I said, next time you, I know it's kind of awkward trying to do it by Zoom, so our next board meeting, we'll maybe hear a little bit from you, just so that the residents can, see you and hear from you. That would be great. Again, welcome to River Forest. We're glad you're here. Congratulations. You're going to do a phenomenal job for our community, so thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm really
Okay,
excited, so thank you.
Yep, I know.
I will also just say thank you to the interim.
Yeah.
Done so much work for.
I'm North here. I mean, not here.
tonight.
But hey, Kevin, you filled in a lot too, so appreciate it. A little bit, but enough to get
Right.
acknowledged. All right, well, that's great. Really exciting. Glad those two recruits are done. So
When does Tom start? When do you come in town?
it's next week, I think. You'll be in. You'll come in Wednesday. So what will happen? He'll be here Wednesday. They'll go through some of their. Tell me what they're going to go through.
Right, there's some paperwork that Tom will need to complete, which we'll get care of when he comes back into town, and his
in full garb here in the next board meeting.
Yes, yeah,
All right,
I'm looking,
so that concludes the,
no, I was just saying, I'm looking forward to starting next week, and I'm extremely thankful and excited about it. So thank you.
thank you. Okay, so we do not have an executive session. This might be the quickest board meeting. I told you that, Ken.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Before we adjourn, can I just ask, I noticed on the calendar, on the village website, that our February 14th meeting has been canceled.
Yeah, well, we
I
did,
just
we
wanted
did
to-
that because of the 14th. I mean, we can keep it. I don't care. I think we published it just to kind of give an opportunity to the staff and all of you. But we don't,
I just wanted to know the schedule and
yeah,
make it
so the
clear.
schedule is the
Yeah.
schedule. But, if we need a board meeting, we certainly will call one, and we can call a special board meeting. We can do it on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever makes sense. But we just thought to get staff and.
Okay.
Our next meeting is the 28th of February,
No, January.
or January. 24th of January,
Yeah.
and then the 28th of February.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
correct. So, like I said, and if we need something in between, we will certainly do it. No worries. Okay, with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Trustee Brennan,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Bachner,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.